Oh hey, we just finished playing through Split Fiction, and well, it was fun. I mean, the characters were very one-dimensional. Everything they said was extraordinarily cringeworthy. By the end, I would literally punch holes in the drywall whenever I would see either of them.
Feels kind of good, doesn't it? What does? Saving the world. It had its moments. But you can do better than that.
All right, the monkey part didn't completely suck.
Shut the fuck up!
Split Fiction was developed by Hazelight Studios, who are well known for their two-player co-op games such as A Way Out and It Takes Two. My fiancé and I have played through both these games and really enjoyed our experience with them, which is why we were quick to grab this game when it released.
Let's start with the good stuff. Split Fiction has amazing visuals, which are extremely creative. From playing as Teeth bouncing around in a sugar-filled wonderland, fighting on top of giant dragons like Cataclysm in World of Warcraft, and heaps more. The game has so much to offer in terms of theatrics. However, let's talk about the characters. Let's just say every time they spoke, I wanted to flashbang myself to become permanently deaf as to never experience such atrocities again.
The game is based around two protagonists. Zoe, who is fun and whimsical and has a British accent.
Yep, I'm a fairy.
And Mio, a dark and edgy emo who loves guns and explosions, and everything she says feels like it belongs on I'm 14 and This Is Deep or Elon Musk's Twitter.
I kind of needed a break from all of my own dark thoughts.
Let's talk about the story. We'll give a quick synopsis of the intro, but don't worry, we won't spoil anything past the first few minutes.
This tale is centered around Mio and Zoe, two aspiring fiction writers. They meet in the elevator at Radar Publishing on their way to participate in a mysterious experiment on the promise of being published. Zoe tries to speak to Mio, but she isn't interested because she is dark and edgy and prefers to be alone. Once there, the writers are given suits and are briefed with almost no explanation. The experiment uses a machine that immerses participants directly into the worlds of their own stories. Mio becomes suspicious and resists entering, but during a struggle, she's accidentally pushed into Zoe's story bubble instead.
Now trapped together, Mio and Zoe are forced to experience each other's narratives. Zoe's whimsical fantasy tales and Mio's gritty emo sci-fi adventures. But with two minds in one simulation, the system begins to glitch. They must navigate, interact with, and repair the broken narratives, gradually unravelling the experiment's deeper intentions and destabilising the machine in the process, which makes Radar big mad.
The concept of the story is great, but these characters, they were so one-dimensional, and almost every time they spoke, we would try to come up with the most cringe thing we could think of, and they would always top it. Zoe is comically happy-go-lucky and loves a good, silly adventure with cats and flying pigs and bright colours. And Mio, fucking Mio, she doesn't like cute cuddly things and prefers cool things like guns and motorbikes and is a lone wolf. But maybe, if she could learn to work with others, she could rely on the power of friendship.
What is it?
Love, Harry. Love.
The lessons these characters eventually learn are super predictable and would feel bad even if the game was meant for kids. Though, with some of the darker themes that appear later in the game, I don't think this game is meant for kids. Disney adults seems to be the target demographic. When the story delves deeper and tries to pull on the heartstrings, it fails miserably when it comes to Mio. She just seems like someone who had an extremely sheltered life. I don't want to spoil anything, but funnily enough, Zoe's character arc did resonate a bit more emotionally.
I've heard Asmongold talk about what he calls millennial writers, and I always somewhat disagreed with this concept. Of course, someone's generation doesn't predetermine if they're going to be good or bad at writing, but the stereotype of millennial writers is ever present here. Almost every quip feels like the worst Marvel one-liners, and as the characters slowly become friends and learn to rely on each other, I would physically recoil with hatred.
If we learned anything from your stories, it's that mechs aren't usually the friendly type.
But the fact we enjoyed and finished the game, despite hating the characters and actively rooting for Radar to beat them and repair his machine, come on Radar, let's go, is testament to how good the rest of the game is. Speaking of which, let's get into the gameplay. The game is mostly a third-person adventure, filled with puzzle solving. It often plays with changing its genre, which were some of my favourite sequences. It would become a 2D side-scroller, a top-down shooter, a bullet hell game, you name it. The game was often fun and satisfying, completing puzzle after puzzle in quick succession, where you would rarely spend too long in any one environment.
The constant changing between different styles of gameplay and the different sets and settings made the game very addictive, as it was always exciting to see what comes next. Oftentimes you were rewarded with some extremely cool sequences, like where you play as a giant pinball machine and the other player is the ball inside, or you're on a tablet and the other player would tilt it to control the environment. But there were some times where the gameplay would feel a little bland, particularly during Mio's sci-fi levels.
I chose Mia's character, as I'm more of a sci-fi fan myself, and thought her levels would be way cooler. But they often felt repetitive due to the endless industrial environments in their stories. Although the 3D platforming was fun, it definitely became stale after a while.
Meanwhile, Zoe's levels ended up being a lot more fun. I think the developers were a lot more creative with the different fantasy environments, leading to a diverse range of scenery that helped make it feel fresh.
Where Mia's levels all felt like they were in the same environment.
Now, although the gameplay did feel fine to engage with for the most part, there were times where it was a little janky. There were many sequences where the game felt like a 3D Sonic game, in all the worst ways. Super dodgy steering while flying through the air with scripted camera movements meant you would randomly die due to not doing exactly what was scripted in that moment.
Some of the platforming felt a bit linear, like there was only one solution. What I mean by that is oftentimes the levels would have these cool looking environments, but the only way forward was a specific wall ride to a certain platform, etc, etc. I would occasionally see cool things and try to jump on it, only to realise it was out of bounds and it would kill me.
I feel like It Takes Two was better at constantly changing the style of game so as to not feel too stale, whereas Split Fiction would often spend too long in one environment with the same playstyle. I feel as though I do like it, but it probably goes on a little long.
And it's very boring.
Yeah. It's a shame because when Split Fiction would change things up, which it did a lot, it was extremely cool and felt very rewarding. I think if the game was 20% shorter, it would have felt way better because it would have led to more of the cool and fun moments being closer together. This is something we feel made It Takes Two a better game than Split Fiction.
Split Fiction is a good co-op game, but if I was recommending 2-player co-op games to people, I would suggest A Way Out and It Takes Two before it. Then again, I'd probably also ask if they'd played the Halo 3 campaign. If they'd completed all that stuff and were still looking for a good co-op game, then I would recommend Split Fiction, with disclaimers about the story and the characters being extraordinarily one-dimensional. The gameplay and the environments are very creative and are super fun to progress through, which is why I would still say this game is worth playing. I reckon I would give it a 6 out of 10, would bang. But I'm not IGN. I know if IGN gives a game a 6, it means it is the most putrid and vile piece of filth and should be thrown into Armand White's top 10 list.
According to Armand White, everything that is good is bad and everything that is bad is good.
No, 6 out of 10 means what it should. It's better than average. It's a B. It's a B minus.
I would give it a 7 out of 10. Although the story didn't hit quite like it should have, I still had a ton of fun playing through the game and it had enough to keep me pretty entertained, even through the boring cutscenes. Disclaimer, I never watch cutscenes.
Thanks for watching, and if you liked our review, chuck it a like and the channel a sub. This is our first review on this channel, and if you have any feedback, please let us know, because we are keen to improve.
Bye, love you, bye!
I love you, bye! Let's go!